Welcome to the webinar, Experience ORBITNOTE, and plus a quick update from Texthelp about all the changes that are happening behind the scenes. This webinar is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists on this Friday, the 18th of February, 2022. Today, we're joined by Shannon from Texthelp. Dan's no stranger to our N.O.A.T webinars and our N.O.A.T membership. He's always here to help us unpack the ever-evolving Texthelp family of tools and supporting Texthelp's education clients on the West Coast of the US as well as here in Canada. Dan specializes in helping higher ed institutions help their students reach their goals. So a huge thank you to Dan for joining us today and welcome. And with that said, I now want to hand over the screen sharing to Dan and let him begin today's presentation.
Thanks, Doug. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so it looks like I have this sharing. I just want to start by thanking everyone for coming today. And thanks, Doug, for that introduction. So today we'll be talking about ORBITNOTE, which is our new PDF reader. So just to start, I'm Dan Shannon. Doug just gave me an introduction there. I'm the Educational Account Manager here at Texthelp, and I specialize with higher ed in Canada. So if anyone ever has questions or information, there's my contact information. So we're going to be looking at ORBITNOTE today. This recently came out back in July and has since had an update that has really improved it. So I'll show you what's come with that and how ORBITNOTE can help to create, convert, and connect documents in PDFs. So today, first thing we'll do is we'll cover why we changed to ORBITNOTE, then jump into a demo, show you how it works and how you can use it. Then I'll give you a quick update, like Doug said, what's going on at Texthelp, what's new with us, and then time for questions at the end. I'm sure there'll be plenty. So for those of you that are familiar with ReadWrite, and specifically the Google version of ReadWrite, we had a PDF reader built in. And the PDF reader worked really well, and it came with ReadWrite. So if you had PDFs, you were able to use all these tools. And over the course of the last probably year and a half, we realized there were some improvements we could make. So what we did was we improved it and we rebranded it ORBITNOTE. And that's where we are today. That came out in July. And then we have since added features, and that's what I'll be showing you today for the most part. So what you can do with ORBITNOTE, when you're in a PDF, you can have text read aloud to you. You can create and share these worksheets easily. You can add text, drawing, annotations, voices, shapes, all those kind of things into PDF documents. You can collaborate and leave feedback, and you can also get the same reading, writing, comprehension supports that you would get with ReadWrite in that PDF environment. So to start, ORBITNOTE has a dashboard. So this is one area and one way you can open your PDFs. So I'll be showing you this during the demo and how this works. If you look at the picture there, it says Open PDF from Google Drive. I know most colleges use Microsoft, so I'll show it to you with OneDrive. But it does work the exact same way with Google Drive, if you are using Google for that. And some of the features that ORBITNOTE has, so like I said, the same things that were in the PDF reader, the ReadWrite PDF reader, are still available in ORBITNOTE. So if you don't have any subscriptions to Texthelp and you download ORBITNOTE, you can use the text-to-speech, the digital highlighters, and the text comments. And then if you're using Google Classroom or Schoology, you can have the integration with those. If you have a read and write license, you're able to use the word prediction, text-to-speech, annotations, voice notes, picture dictionaries, all these other features that come with read and write, you're able to use in the ORBITNOTE on the PDF. And then if you were to add read and write premium, or sorry, ORBITNOTE premium, let's hide this so you can see, you will get the instant full page OCR scanning. That is the big feature that we came out with. That was really the driver behind this change from the PDF reader to ORBITNOTE. We, especially during the pandemic where people started working from home and using PDFs more, we realized OCR scanning was going to become an important part of any PDF reader. So we wanted to make sure we had that built in. As well as in the future down the line, we're hoping by the end of April, the Canvas integration will come out. So OrbitNote will be able to integrate right into Canvas. You'll be able to open things directly from Canvas in OrbitNote. We also have an iPad app that's in development as well. So that you'll be able to take a picture on your iPad of a document, OCR scan it, and have that be accessible text.
Dan, if I can just interrupt for half a sec, we just have
Yeah,
a comment in the chat regarding the sound. Some people are having difficulty hearing you. I know you're trying to do without the headset only because you're trying to demonstrate the audio in a few moments with OrbitNote. So,
okay, yeah, let me try to
sure.
troubleshoot this for a sec, and if not, I'll throw the headset on.
Okay.
So I can always go back to that.
And Lyle, who had mentioned that and brought it to our attention, if you could maybe clarify, is it just the volume or is there some other problem with the audio? We want to make sure that what the words of wisdom that Dan has to share today, we want to make sure that he can definitely be heard.
Is it any better now? Is this better sound quality?
It's a little better for me. I'm going to let the audience speak. Lisa is saying yes, and Lyle, is it correcting the difficulty for yourself? Much clearer. Okay, so we've got two much clearer. So thank you very much, Dan. I apologize everybody for the interruption, but take it away, Dan.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, if anyone has any trouble, feel free to say. I can always throw the headset on, but then I won't be able to play the audio from OrbitNote to show that it can read and stuff. So that's why I try to do this way if possible. But yeah, I can definitely throw that on if it'll be an improvement for people later. So back to this. So what OrbitNote can do is if you have an image-based PDF only, let's get rid of that. So that's a PDF that will look like this. If it's not accessible, you can't highlight anything on the page. And because of that, screen readers, they won't be able to access this. What you're looking for, if you're using OrbitNote, you're going to want a PDF that is accessible so that you can actually highlight the text. You can interact with the text. So on the left is not what you want, and on the right, we'll give that one a gold star because that is what we're looking for. That is an accessible PDF document. And that's something that OrbitNote will be able to work with. And that's where the built-in scanning comes in. So if you have a PDF that is image only, unreadable by OrbitNote, or any screen reader for that matter, OrbitNote will be able to automatically scan this document, find the text in it, and then it will be able to be accessible. So you can use the toolbar to have that text read to you, to use any of the tools we have on the toolbar, and it'll work right alongside that. So let's take a look. I'll jump into the demo and show you how these work. So to start, I'll go to the dashboard. So when you sign into the dashboard at first, it's going to ask you to sign in with either Google or Microsoft. I signed in with Microsoft to show it to you with OneDrive, but if you were using a Google account, you can certainly sign in with Google too. I'm actually usually signed in with Google because our accounts are with Google, but for this, I'm using the Microsoft one. So if you have a PDF that you've just downloaded and is on your computer, maybe you have it down here on the bottom, you can just drag it right in here and it will open it in OrbitNote. You can also open a PDF from OneDrive. So if I click here, it's going to open up my OneDrive folder and it's going to make me sign back in because I signed in a while ago. Let me just re-sign back in. I'll show you how this looks too. So if we sign in with Microsoft, it'll authenticate me here. Perfect. So now if I go, it will show my files, and here's my folder here. And we are going to open up this document, bad scan. So with this, it will open up this document from my OneDrive right into OrbitNote. And here I have this document. It's accessible, which is good. So now I can use the toolbar. So if I want to use the click to speak.
A to minute quick check for a digital PDF document. Can you highlight the text?
So with this one, with the click to speak, I'm able to click whatever line of text that I want, and it will have that read aloud. I could also highlight a line and click the play button.
Open the PDF document with Adobe Reader 2. Can you hide?
And have it read aloud. I can pause it. I can stop it. So I have the text-to-speech tools right there available with this document. I also have the dictionary and the picture dictionary tools. So if I click document, it's going to give me a definition and some pictures. There's the translator tool as well, so I can translate it. I have it set to Spanish right now, but there is tons and tons of different languages you can translate to. You can translate from any of those languages to any of these languages. So there is no shortage of languages if you want to get some translations done. You can also, since I'm in the settings, you can adjust the voice. So if you want one of our different voices, you can certainly use them. We have plenty, and you can adjust the speed. So I have mine set a little slower, but you can speed it up if you want it faster. And OrbitNote also works in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and a UK dialect of English. So if you have students that speak any of those languages, maybe some French-speaking students, you can have the whole toolbar switch to that. So the translator is still one word. We don't translate full paragraphs. We've found that the Google Translate builds on itself. That's how it's gotten so good now. And the way these translators get better is the more they translate, the better they learn the languages and the better they translate. And we will never have the usage that Google Translate does. So we recommend using Google Translate if you want to translate full paragraphs. But one words here and there, this translator is very, very good. We also on here, we have a screenshot reader. So if for some reason, if you had a document say half was accessible, half wasn't, maybe there was an image that wasn't accessible, you could use the screenshot reader to screenshot. And what that'll do is it'll take a quick OCR
Is
of
my
that area,
document accessible?
and you'll be able to have
Is
it
my
read.
document accessible?
You can pause it, and you can have that read aloud to you. Same way the screenshot reader works on the read and write toolbar if you're on the web. We also have the same vocabulary toolbar we have. We have the screen mask built in here as well. So if you want a screen mask, you can do that. You can edit this in settings to make it bigger or smaller, darker, lighter, all those kind of things, change the colors as well. So that's a very good tool to have built in here. The highlighter tool's here too. So if you want to highlight certain things in your PDF, you can do that. You can highlight whether you want words or full sentences, different colors, and then you can collect the highlights, sort them by position on the page or by color, and then it'll pop it into a new doc, and you can have all your notes organized like that. Then where OrbitNote becomes really good is with the annotation. So if you want to annotate, you can add, if you want to add shapes or lines, you can do these kind of things. You can change the colors and things like that. You can also erase them out. You can free hand draw. So if I want to write something like this, I don't have a real annotation to write on this, but you can write anything you'd want with that. You can change the thickness. So if you want it to be thin, you can do that. Erase all these out of here too. But where this becomes really good is with the T. So this is the text annotation. So if I click on here, I can write, please read, spell read wrong, read this document. And when I'm in here, I can have this text played.
Please read this document.
I can use the prediction tool from Read and Write to help build what I'm writing here.
Documentary.
And when I hover over these words, they'll be read aloud.
Document.
I can use the dictation tool. I can also make the text bigger or smaller if I'd like, and I can change the colors here. And then say I'm in a document where there is a lot of writing and I want to take a note in the middle of it, say like a textbook. What I can do is I can use this push pin. So I can write in here, let's pretend I don't know what web links are. I'm going to click right here and say, what are web links? When I click out of it, it's going to put this push pin here. So now when I'm going back and reading through this document, I can click that and it will give me my note. I'll be able to see the annotation that I have there and it will go away. So that is super helpful to be able to do, to have those annotations right there and be able to annotate on this page directly on the PDF. So that's kind of some of the tools that you can use with OrbitNote. For those of you that are familiar with Read and Write, they definitely look very similar because they are. You got some updated like pictures and things like this and logos for them, but they all work pretty much the same. So everything that I've shown you so far is available with read and write license if you have a read and write license. And Michelle, I do see your comment here asking if I can use the OCR with handwriting. So that can get a little tricky. It really depends on how neat your handwriting is. My handwriting, you cannot OCR because it's all over the place. OCR looks for known texts. So if it's able to recognize your handwriting as a text, it will be able to pick it up. But if your handwriting isn't really neat, it's not going to be able to do it. And that's not necessarily even our OCR tools. That's pretty much every OCR tool. So that's kind of how that goes there. So now if I hop over to my OneDrive account here, here's my my folder with some PDFs. And I want to open this science textbook. So what I'm going to do is if I open this, I'm just going to open it in the browser. Since I have OrbitNote installed on my extensions here in Chrome, it'll pop this up here, open with OrbitNote. So I just have to click this right here, and it's going to make sure I'm signed in. And it'll open up this PDF for me in OrbitNote. So everything looks the same as it did. And this is actually one of my accessible ones. So let's go and actually open a different one. I scanned that earlier. And it saved it. So the grammar, let's open this one. Perfect. So this is an image-based PDF here. If I'm trying to highlight this, nothing's highlighting for me. I'm not able to access any of this text. And you can see up here, it's recognizing there's no text. So it's giving me the option to scan the text. So if I click this, it lets me have the option to scan this document into any of these languages. So since it's an English document, I'm going to click English, and it says the scan is going to take estimated 30 seconds. The larger the document, the longer it's going to take. If you try to scan a 20-page document, it's not going to take 30 seconds. It's going to take some time. But for this, let's scan it. And as you can see, it's starting up. And here we go. So now it's processing it. And it's going to save it back as an accessible document. So now I can access this text. So now if I want to have something read aloud,
Draw a box around the subject of the sentence to underline.
I can now do that. I can now use all of these tools if I want to highlight something, if I want to annotate on this. We also have comments built in. So if I want to add a comment here, I can do that. It didn't let me.
Draw a box around the subject of the
It's being a little finicky there. It allows you to do comments built in here as well. So that's how the scanning works. It's very quick. I mean, it said it was going to take 30 seconds. It probably took about 10. And now this is accessible. And one thing about OrbitNote is it's a Chrome extension. It works in Edge as well, but it's online. And the reason it's online was we understand that students are using LMSs online a lot of times. If they're in Canvas, if they're in Brightspace, they're on the web. Whether they're in Chrome or a different browser, they're on the web. And rather than having to download a PDF, save it to your desktop, bring it into the read and write desktop, scan it there, then have to open it there, do whatever you want there, save it again, bring it back. Like that's a really long workflow to have to get through. I was able to open this document right here. It takes 1 second. I'm now in OrbitNote with this document here. It's such a fast workflow. And it works the same if you're in Canvas and you have a PDF there. You just open it in the browser and then open it with OrbitNote. When the Canvas integration comes out, you're going to be able to open it directly from Canvas into OrbitNote. So that's going to be really helpful and even speed this workflow up even faster. And then if it's image-based, you're able to just scan it right there and have that accessible text or use whatever these tools are. So that's kind of how OrbitNote works. I'll take some questions after. Let me jump back over to my slides here and tell you what's new at Texthelp, and then we can jump into some of the questions here. So let's do this. Okay, so what's new at Texthelp? And yes, Brightspace is on the list. Brightspace will be integrated at some point. It's Canvas is first, and then I believe Brightspace is probably next on the list, actually. There we go. Let's pull that over there. Okay, so what's new at Texthelp? So I know many of you have probably seen this. You've probably heard about it. I've talked to some of you about it. We merged with Don Johnston back in January. So Don Johnson they're an American company. They make a product called Co-Writer. They make another one called Snap and Read. Very prominent in the K-12 market in the United States. So we merged with them, our management and their management. We've been competitors for a while. Management teams have known each other. And I think at a certain point they realized we have the same visions for what we want to do. So why are we competing? Why don't we join forces and do it together? So it's gone really well so far. Things to note, Texthelp isn't really changing. So read and write's not going to change. It'll only get better. I know Don Johnston has a really, really good prediction software. So we may take some of their prediction software and put it into read and write. And they may take some of our things and put them into their products. But both products are still going to be offered. Read and write's not going to go away. No versions of read and write are going to go away. So that's all good news. I'll still be the contact. So nothing to worry about there. So we are also in the process of rewriting the Google Chrome extension of ReadWrite. So the reason for this is it's actually 8 years old, and we've obviously come out with updates all the time, every probably month or two, every couple of months it's been updated, but it's never been fully rewritten. And what happened was Google moved from whatever platform they were using before to a platform called Manifest version 3. And what that did is that required extensions to have to be rewritten and basically changed in the back end. So this has been a big project that's taken quite a while. It's taken almost a year, I believe. But it's almost done and it'll be released shortly. And it's one of those things where people aren't going to have a noticeable change. Like there's going to be some change that you might see here and there, but the real change you're going to notice is really just your experience with read and write will just be better. It's going to be faster. Things like that, enhanced functionality, that kind of thing. But it is actually going to really improve the product on the back end. And that's really what's the most important for an extension. And then we've also recently come out with some updates to desktop. I think the last one was last month, I believe, where we were able to improve French word prediction, which is really great for some of the French students that speak French. We're able to support different French keyboard layouts as well, so that's important. There were a couple bugs we fixed in there, like the launch on Windows startup bug, as well as we've actually updated some of the voices. So if you're using the desktop version online, you now have more option for voices than you previously did. If you're using it offline, you still only have the one voice, but online you'll have a bigger variety of options to choose from. So that's certainly helpful for students that are using the desktop version, whether you're using it with testing or wherever those students are using that. We have not updated the Mac version yet, Michelle. That will be coming. So we have updates that get worked on from time to time here with that. But we're currently rewriting the Google version. Then we're going to do a big undertaking of the desktop version, and then Mac's coming after that. So that will be coming down the line. And then Russell, looks like OrbitNote. OrbitNote will work with Moodle. It's not integrated in yet. That I'm sure is on the list as well, because that is one of the main LMSs that people do use. But I know Canvas was first, and I think Brightspace was after that, and then I don't know the specifics after that, but my guess is Moodle is definitely on that list. And then, Anne, I see your question as well. Could I demonstrate how OrbitNote is able to scan a PDF of an older printer material, something that you may have archived? So what I can show you is this document here called Bad Scan. Actually, nope, it's not the Bad Scan. It's the ATIA demo one, this. So I open this up. This is this document. And I believe when I open it, it's going to be already scanned. because I scanned this recently. Yeah, so this one's already scanned, but if you trust me here, I did scan this with OrbitNote, and it is accessible. So if and you can clearly see this is not a very good scan document. You got the binding here, there's some writing on it, underlines all over the place. But if I do say click to speak.
Constructing an environmental ethics and Weekend Brian G. Norton ORSI. Introduction 1. And the present paper. I address the question of whether there must be a distinct.
So let's stop that there. So it is able to scan a document like this, and a document like this where it is poorly uploaded, the image is not good quality. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be as perfect as if it's like this document here that is a lot cleaner, or this one here that's a lot cleaner, but it will get the job done. You'll be able to get 99% of the scan in there and have that text be accessible. So you can click on certain words if you want to use the dictionary. You're going to have that ability to do that. But yeah, at this point, I'm happy to take any questions people have about OrbitNote, as well as if you have other questions about any of our other products, I'm happy to speak to those as well. I'm here, so I'm happy to help anyone that has questions.
Great, thanks, Dan. I noticed that there were some questions being posted in the chat, and you have caught all of them, unless I've missed some as well. So I do just encourage people to either continue to add questions or comments into the chat. Unmute your microphone and participate by voice, as well as there is a raise hand feature in the Google Meet if you are so inclined to raise the hand and ask permission to speak. We like to have as orderly and polite webinars as possible, but so looks like there's an awful lot of feature requests and feedback that I've heard of over the years, Dan, that's gone into OrbitNote, and along with bringing a lot of things under one roof, if you could maybe phrase it that way. So that's a well done job. Lots of opportunity there.
Speaking of bringing under one roof, that kind of is part of the thought process with OrbitNote, because we did have SnapVerter, and SnapVerter was able to do the scanning, but it was similar to some other thing, to using the desktop version, where it was a longer workflow. You had to download things, you had to move it, you had to wait for it to be scanned, you had to get it back. It's such an easier workflow now for students to just be able to, or staff for that matter, if they're the ones doing the scanning of these documents, it's to have it, to just be able to open it, scan it, and use it all in the same place. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. All right. There's got to be questions and comments, even feature requests that we can funnel through Dan, things that people would like to see. Michael has raised his hand. Go ahead, Michael. You've got the floor, Michael, anytime. Go ahead.
My apologies. Can you hear me now, Doug?
We can, and it must have been those high winds in the UK that you're experiencing, Michael. It was blowing it was wind resistance of your comments coming through. So go ahead.
Apologies for that, and thank you, Dan, for the demonstration. My question is on the screenshot reader element. When we're screenshotting a non-text-based PDF, and that text or the image gets OCR'd, is the text then sent into sort of like a copy so that one could then switch to Word and paste straight away what has been scanned?
From the screenshot reader itself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't believe so. Let me see though. If I was to screenshot this here.
Mm-hmm.
Environmental.
Yes or no? I don't believe it is able to be copied from there.
Okay. That'd be a nice feature, because sometimes with students, they may have a paragraph where they just want to quickly grab a portion of text and maybe put that into an essay they might be working on as a quote, for example. So that would be nice, something to think about maybe.
Definitely. So I just wrote that down, and I'll certainly pass that along. And I'm pretty sure that is something we will be able to add. I know with Equatio, when you use the screenshot reader, you're able to copy it from there. So if you're able to do it there, I'm sure they could probably build it into this one as well.
And if I'm correct, read and write for the desktop, there is an option there to screenshot to Word. So you take a screenshot and then the text gets sent straight to Word.
Yes, yes, I believe you can do that there too.
Yeah, so just wondered if this was along the same path. Okay, thank you for that. Cheers.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. And Anne, go ahead.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Dan. Just an overall comment. I saw this demonstrated. I think, Dan, I attended one of the webinars that happened late November, early December.
Yep.
And I was overwhelmed by the OCR capability and the flexibility of it for students. And I see that Lyle has posted a question, and I know Vanessa has a question too. So just wanted to thank you, Dan, for doing this today and bringing out all of the capabilities of this. I think it's amazing. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Anne. I'll pass that along to our developers because I don't develop it, so I can't take too much credit. But
no, it's one of the beauties of having someone like Dan here for this kind of an individual if you will, one-on-one demonstration, as you noted there, Anne. Is some of those other webinars, they can be quite overwhelming, and we just walk away and our heads are swimming with information. Our heads are swimming with potential and possibilities, and sometimes we're one of hundreds in the audience and we don't get the questions answered if we even have an opportunity to ask them. So this is a great forum for that to happen. And yes, Vanessa, Clark, and Lyle have got questions and comments in the chat we're going to get to in just a moment. But I'd like to invite people to take the opportunity, if there's something that Dan showed that you want to have him show you again, because if you're like me, you were kind of trying to follow along and got lost in trying to keep up, feel free to ask Dan to pop us back into his screen and show us again. Or if you want to know, can it do something, this is the time to ask these questions. And out of that also, this is the time, as Dan's already written a few things down there, to give feedback. We're the people who are supporting those who use tools like the whole suite of tools now, even with the extras from Don Johnson. So we're the ones that get the feedback. We're the ones that say, I wished that program would do this. And these are opportunities like this are where Dan and his development team get that feedback kind of firsthand, so that they can then work on it. And you never know what we might see in the next feature release. So I invite people to add those notes into the chat, or again raise their hand. And I'm just going to get back to the chat here, Dan. Vanessa, I think this is kind of in regards to the question that was asked earlier. Is it possible to do the OCR on a PDF in OrbitNote, but read the PDF in a different document reader?
yes, you can. So the OCRing will OCR and make the text accessible. If you're using a different reader to whether read the PDF or just screen read in general, once it's accessible, it's accessible. So it can be used anywhere at that point.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. And Clark has made a comment about the most common piece of feedback that is heard from students is the voices sound robotic, and some students, they just won't use the text-to-speech because of the robotic voices, but they do like the Microsoft Online natural voices in the Edge immersive reader. And Clark has noticed that the Microsoft Edge version of Read and Write can use those Microsoft Online natural voices, and wondering if OrbitNote has access to those online natural voices.
So Clark, that's a good question. I actually don't know that off the top of my head. I'm guessing yes, though, because if Read and Write is using those voices, oh, someone's calling me. If Read and Write is using those voices, I don't see why they wouldn't have allowed OrbitNote to use those voices. So I can definitely check on that and get you an answer for sure, but I would say 90% yes.
Perfect.
All
right. And appreciate that that observation as well, Clark. If it's not something that is able to be done, then I'm sure that the development team can take that as advice and maybe make it happen. So we've got a question from Lyle wanting to confirm that OrbitNote will remain free for site license holders, or whichever licensing term grants access to it, whether it's a site license or a different term.
Yes, Lyle. So the features of OrbitNote that aren't scanning will remain part of the read and write subscription. The scanning does have a premium cost, so that is added, as well as the integrations with Canvas and those kind of things. But everything that you could do with a read and write PDF reader, you will still be able to do with OrbitNote. We're not taking anything away from anybody.
Okay, just to follow up on that, you said that it's a premium for the scanning. Does that mean that it can be added on to an existing license?
Yes, so if you have a read and write license, or if you don't have a read and write license, you can purchase the scanning portion of OrbitNote. And if you were, say you didn't have a read and write license and you wanted to purchase the premium OrbitNote version, you would be able to do everything in OrbitNote. You'd be able to use the PDF reader, all the features, and the scanning tool.
So then for those of us who have had site licenses or group licenses of read and write for a number of years, and now that this is out there, is there a set fee that is to add on that scanning, or does it depend on the volume of license?
It depends on the volume of license. So if like our unlimited licenses of read and write, the price is depending on the enrollment of the schools. So OrbitNote's the same with that. It's enrollment dependent, different tiers. And then we also offer a group license of OrbitNote as well. So if you have a group license of read and write, you can add a group license of OrbitNote as well.
Okay, so it's not $10.99 per not a simple calculation like that okay. All right, so get in touch with Dan if you want to have any of that information for pricing and that for upgrades. And I'll in a moment put his contact information into the chat for us. Lyle's also asked, does OrbitNote have a recents list to allow you to return to a document that you've been working on, or can it be added as a feature?
So it doesn't have a recents list. I can certainly pass that along and ask them to add that. I think that could definitely be helpful. So one thing with OrbitNote, once you scan the document, it's going to be accessible. So then you can just, I guess, jump back and forth from your drive. But I could certainly see how having a recent list would be helpful. So I'll pass that along and see if that's something they could add in there.
Okay, great. I just put in Dan's contact information into the chat there for anybody who's looking for it, and it'll also be posted as a resource for the replay page. And as we're going along here, there's still some questions and that coming in through the chat. Just remind anybody that wants to ask by voice, please either raise your hand and or unmute yourself, and we'll get you on to contribute by voice. Christine is wondering if you can change the colors of the highlighted text, meaning the highlighted text as it's reading.
So no, you can't do that. That is blue and yellow, and that is not able to be changed at this time. And that's the same with read and write as well.
Okay, so as they're rewriting read and write, maybe that's a feature request we can add in as
definitely.
well.
I can definitely pass that along for sure, because I know you can do that with like the screen masking. You can change the colors. If you went to the simplified page in read and write, you can change the colors of that. So it's definitely something they could probably add in. So I'll definitely pass that along. Perfect.
And Lake is wondering if OrbitNote can OCR math and scientific notations.
Yes, it can. So if you're using a PDF with, say, like Equatio, you can have that scanned and then use Equatio right on there to access all of that. So yes, it will scan those kind of things.
All right, perfect. And Wink is wondering about Sappy 5 voices.
So I don't know what Sappy 5 voices are. I'm guessing that's similar to just a different set of voices made by someone. I can definitely pass those along if those are voices people like and would like built into these tools. I can certainly have those asked for.
All right, and Wink, feel free to unmute if you'd like to clarify on that.
It's a simple, it was just a statement, Dan. Sappy 5 voices are the Microsoft voices that are free.
Okay.
You can download. It was just a follow-up on that comment someone else made about the natural voices. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll definitely, when I ask about voices, I'll include that and see if those can be integrated in.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for clarifying that, Wink. And we've got a comment or a question here from Lyle saying, as much as Fact Mapper wasn't the most expansive in read-write version up to 11.5, it was still a good alternative. Any plans to bring back mind mapping in some form?
So that is something they've talked about, yes. I think the last time I met with you guys, that was a question that got brought up, and I brought it to our product managers, and they had said that they were looking at that. It was taken out, but after it was taken out, there had been requests to bring it back. So it is something that they are looking at adding in at some point. I don't have a timeline on when that would be, but it is something they've noticed the requests for.
Okay, great. Thank
But
you.
I'll write that down. I'll bring that back up and see if I can get an update on it.
Yeah, bring it back bigger and better than the Fact Mapper was. All right. So I think we've caught up with the questions and comments that are in the chat, but I still encourage people, if there's any other questions or comments that are lingering, please do add them in, as well as take the opportunity to unmute yourself and or raise your hand if you'd like to join in by voice. And just as we're kind of coming to a close here on the webinar, yeah, any other future plans, Dan, that you can share with us as a result of the merger, features that we might be seeing coming into the read and write product itself, or anything that you're allowed to share from the rewrite that they're going through?
So I mean, the rewrite itself is a lot of back end stuff that you won't necessarily notice, but it's going to make the tool faster. It's going to make it an overall better user experience. I think we're going to get updated like logos for the features similar to what they look like in ORBITNOTE. I think that's coming. Specific features being added, there's none that I can speak about being added or being processed right now. I'm sure there will be some coming, and I think features are also going to improve over the next probably year or so with this merger with Don Johnston. Now that we can share technology, that's not going to make anything worse. I think I mentioned they have a really, really good prediction software. That was always, if we were competing, if we had competing bids and prediction was what was most important, a lot of times people would go with them because theirs was really good. So we're hoping to bring some of their technology there and bring it into our prediction. So that's something that will likely improve probably in the next year or so over that time. So I think things are going to continue to develop, going to continue to get better, but nothing concrete that I can share at this point, really.
Good. I hear a little hint of yes, there are things, but no, I can't share. So that excites us as assistive technologists. We like to know that there's definitely a future development going on, more than just making it look better in that. So Hillary is wondering if read-write will incorporate text leveling.
So I can't speak in definitive terms, but I don't believe so. I know that Don Johnson's products, they do have text leveling. And I know that's something that had been talked about being added over the course of time. And I think some people in the company were not fans of text leveling for the thought that I think the theory behind it was we shouldn't dumb down the text. We should try to help students get up to the level of the text. So my guess is that will not be added into read and write, but I know it is a part of Don Johnson's products. They do have it there.
Great. Great. Anne has just seconded the notion of us as AT professionals finding out about new solutions and ideas. So I know, Dan, you've been very happy to come back and share with us as things develop through the Texthelp family, and now the family's even bigger. So with the rewrite going on and all the change that's happening, I would expect that we'll be having you back on at least a few more times to keep us updated on all the changes as they're happening.
Yeah, sure. And I'm happy to do that whenever we have big changes. I'm happy to share them out. I know people like to hear the good news. So
yeah, and I know that as you've demonstrated very much so today, Dan, that you and your entire team, you're always looking for feedback, and our membership and the AT profession as a whole, we're certainly more than willing to provide that. So always ask us for feedback if you're looking for it. And I know, Dan, you yourself, and I think one or two of your colleagues at Texthelp are members of the N.O.A.T community. And with that on the discussion list, I know that there have been times where things have been posted regarding Texthelp or the various individual products, and you've been able to respond and help out there. So that's definitely a benefit for our members as well. And we definitely want to make sure that you're aware how much we appreciate that, and how much we appreciate when our members, we hear back from amongst each other that just call Dan, he'll look after it. And yeah, I called Dan last week, and it's fantastic to hear that, and I know your colleagues have the same philosophy, so it's wonderful. And I just wanted to double check one thing as I was managing the behind the scenes here in the webinar. I may have missed you already answering this, Dan, but I think it was Michelle who asked about the Mac version being updated in that. Was there a timeline on that?
So I don't have a timeline right now. I know that is something that it is on the backlog of things to do. I just don't know the timeline on it.
Okay. All right. Okay. If there's any final questions or thoughts that anybody would like to share by unmuting, raising their hand, or adding it in the chat, please do. We're just definitely coming close to the hour here, and I know that most of us have other meetings to go to, so we want to wrap up a little ahead of time here and get you out to those other meetings so that you can finish off your Friday afternoons, or depending on your time zone, go and relax for your Friday evenings. And just seeing a lot of thank yous coming in here, Dan, and it's great. So yeah, I'm just gonna take the screen sharing back here, and calling your team the Text Helpers.
Yes,
So,
that's what we call ourselves.
yeah, the Text Helpers. Yeah. And actually, there is one thing I just remembered. I was going to share this, and it just, before it gets away from me, I'll put it in the resources as well. It was shared actually by Anne, one of our members who's here with us today, on our membership discussion list regarding a resource that I think it's your colleagues over in Ireland or UK. I can't. It's definitely, I don't think it's the Canadian complement, but they put out a resource on some online training that you can take part in.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just put that link into the chat there for people, and if anybody has some free time on the weekend, they can do that.
Yeah. So yes, I've seen these. These are certainly helpful with some of the things that we do to be able to.
That's correct, Ann. Thank you for providing the name and that. I had made note of the link, and I'd forgotten to make note of the program name. It's the Inclusive Ed Boot Camp. So that's great. Appreciate that. So, all right. I'm not seeing. Oh, we just looking. One person is looking to join the meeting, so we just let them in here as we're finishing up. So we'll have to bring them up to speed on it through the replay. Which, if everything goes according to plan, the replay will be sent out to people early to mid next week. And yeah. So, anything else that you wanted to share with us as we wrap up here, Dan?
No, I think that's gonna be it. Just like thank everyone for coming. I hope you found it helpful, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I can certainly help you out. If you want to try out OrbitNote, test it out with some students, we can certainly help out with that.
Perfect. All right. So just I've taken the screen sharing back here, and just want to thank you again, Dan, for being with us today and bringing all this information to us and showing us all of the new features, going over, answering our questions, taking those suggestions back, and a couple questions that are still outstanding that we'll be able to get back to those who were asking. It's as I've said earlier, it's a pleasure to always having you back here, Dan, and bringing the new information. Your support, your continued support of the assistive tech profession and us here at the Network of Assistive Technologists definitely goes without saying, but I will anyways. It's greatly appreciated. Want definitely for you to stay in touch, keep us updated. Look forward to having you back in the future. And lastly, for everyone else here, or for everyone here today, thank you for joining. And remember, you can't spell education without AT.